Picture this, a summer's evening in Rome. The air is warm and the city is buzzing like a beehive on espresso. It's like the ancient version of a Friday night out. It's 150 CE. The streets are packed with merchants, traders, and citizens, all contributing to the city's vibrant chaos. It's like Black Friday, but with togas and way more shouting. The sun is setting over the Colosseum, casting a golden hue over its ancient stones. It's the original golden hour, folks. Instagram would have been all over this. Thousands of spectators are already filling the stands, their excitement palpable as they anticipate the evening's entertainment. It's like the Super Bowl, but with more swords and fewer commercials. They are eager for the day's spectacle to begin. Gladiators will clash in fierce combat, showcasing their strength and skill. Think WWE, but with real consequences and no scripted drama. Wild animals will be hunted, adding an element of danger and thrill to the proceedings. It's like a safari, but the animals are not the only ones in danger. Talk about a plot twist. The sand will be soaked in blood, a testament to the brutal nature of these games. It's like a Quentin Tarantino movie, but live and with fewer special effects. This was the Roman Empire at its zenith, a vast dominion stretching from the misty shores of Britain to the sun-baked deserts of Syria. It was like the world's biggest Airbnb, but with more legions and fewer complaints about Wi-Fi. For centuries, Rome had been the master of the Mediterranean world. Its legions were unmatched, feared by enemies and respected by allies. They were the original "Don't Mess With Us" squad. No one dared to leave a bad Yelp review. Its emperors were worshipped as gods, their decrees shaping the lives of millions. Talk about having a god complex. Imagine having that much power and still worrying about your toga fitting right. Its culture was admired and imitated throughout the known world, influencing art, architecture, and philosophy. They were the original influencers. Move over, Kardashians. But how did this empire arise from such humble beginnings? From a small settlement on the banks of the Tiber River, Rome grew into a colossal empire. It's the ultimate rags-to-riches story. Think of it as the ancient version of "started from the bottom, now we're here." What were the forces that shaped its destiny? Political intrigue, military conquests, and cultural assimilation all played crucial roles. It's like Game of Thrones, but with more togas and less dragons. And way more backstabbing. And why, after centuries of dominance, did it ultimately crumble and fall? Economic troubles, invasions, and internal strife led to its decline. It's the original too big to fail story, but it did. Oops. The story of Rome is a tale of ambition, courage, brutality, and ultimately, decline. It is a narrative filled with larger-than-life characters and dramatic events. It's like a soap opera, but with more stabbing. And fewer commercial breaks. It is a story that has captivated historians and storytellers for centuries, and it is a story that continues to resonate with us today. The lessons of Rome are still relevant in our modern world, because who doesn't love a good drama? Especially one with togas. The ruins of Roman cities, the echoes of Roman law in our legal systems, and the influence of Roman culture on our art and literature all serve as reminders of this once mighty empire. They are the enduring legacies of a civilization that shaped the world. It's like the ultimate Throwback Thursday. Ancient vibes. Join us now as we journey back in time to explore the rise and fall of the Roman Empire, an epic saga spanning over 1,000 years. Discover the triumphs and tragedies that defined this remarkable civilization. Buckle up, it's going to be a wild ride. And don't forget your toga. Our story begins not with the might of legions or the grandeur of emperors, but with a simple legend, a tale passed down through generations of Romans. And boy, do they know how to spin a yarn. Grab your popcorn, folks. This is the story of Romulus and Remus, twin brothers abandoned to die on the banks of the Tiber River. Talk about a rough start. They must have really ticked someone off. Rescued by a she-wolf, they were raised by a shepherd and grew to be strong and ambitious young men. I guess you could say they were raised by wolves, literally. Bet their bedtime stories were wild. They decided to found a city on the very spot where they had been saved. Because, nothing says prime real estate like a near-death experience. Location, location, location. However, a quarrel erupted between them and Romulus killed Remus. Sibling rivalry at its finest. Talk about taking my way or the highway to a whole new level. Thus, Rome was born in bloodshed, a grim omen for its future. But hey, at least it wasn't boring. Drama from day one. The year, according to legend, was 753 BCE, or as the Romans called it, a long, long time ago. In a galaxy far, far away, just kidding. While the tale of Romulus and Remus is likely more myth than history, it reveals much about the Romans' own view of themselves. A people forged in violence, destined for greatness, and forever marked by the shadow of fratricide. Talk about family drama. Move over, soap operas. The early Romans were not the mighty emperors and conquerors we often imagine. Nope, they were just regular folks trying to make a living. No togas and laurel wreaths here. They were shepherds and farmers, living in a collection of villages scattered across the Italian peninsula. Think of it as ancient suburbia, with a lot more sheep. They were surrounded by hostile neighbors and constantly struggled for survival. It was like living in the world's toughest neighborhood. Forget about noisy neighbors, these ones had spears. Yet, within this small community, the seeds of a future empire were being sown, and those seeds would grow into one heck of a story. Stay tuned, it's about to get epic. In the centuries that followed its mythical founding, Rome gradually expanded its power and influence, transforming from a small city-state into a dominant force in the Mediterranean world. And by dominant force, we mean they were the ancient equivalent of that one friend who always wins at Monopoly. You know, the one who buys up all the properties and then laughs maniacally as you mortgage your last railroad. The Romans were a practical people, more concerned with survival and prosperity than with lofty ideals. Their daily lives revolved around agriculture, trade, and family, which were the cornerstones of their society. Basically, they were the original workaholics, minus the coffee breaks. And trust me, they could have used some espresso. They developed a unique political system, a republic, in which power was shared between different groups. This system was designed to prevent any one individual or group from gaining too much control. Think of it as the world's first no hogging the remote policy. Because even back then, nobody liked a channel surfer. At the heart of this system was the Senate, a council of elders who advised the city's leaders. The Senate played a crucial role in shaping Roman policies and decisions. Basically, they were the original old boys club, minus the golf course. And with a lot more toga parties. The Senate was made up of patricians, wealthy landowners who held most of the power in early Rome. These patricians were influential in both political and social spheres. Imagine a bunch of ancient billionaires deciding the fate of the world while lounging in togas. It's like a toga party meets a board meeting. However, the common people, known as plebeians, gradually gained more rights and a say in government. Over time, they fought for and achieved significant political reforms. Think of it as the world's longest and most dramatic episode of Survivor. Except instead of getting voted off the island, you got exiled from Rome. This struggle between the patricians and the plebeians, the haves and the have-nots, would shape Roman politics for centuries to come. It was a dynamic and often contentious relationship that defined much of Roman history. Basically, it was like a never-ending season of Game of Thrones, but with more togas and fewer dragons. And a lot more backstabbing, literally. The Roman Republic was not a democracy in the modern sense. While it allowed for some level of public participation, it was far from being a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. More like a government of the people, by the rich people, and for the rich people. So, kind of like a really exclusive club with a very strict dress code. It was a complex and often messy system, prone to corruption and deadlock. Political maneuvering and power struggles were common, and the system required constant adjustments. Think of it as ancient Rome's version of House of Cards, but with more stabbing and less Netflix. And a lot more Latin, yet it was also remarkably resilient and adaptable. The Roman Republic managed to endure and evolve, even in the face of significant challenges and crises. Kind of like a really stubborn cockroach, but with better architecture. And a lot more marble. It allowed Rome to maintain stability and unity during times of crisis, and it provided a framework for the conquest of Italy and beyond. The Republic's structure enabled Rome to expand its territories and influence. Basically, they were the original go big or go home enthusiasts. And they definitely went big. The Romans were not natural conquerors. They preferred to secure their position through diplomacy and alliances, often negotiating treaties to avoid conflict. Think of them as the ancient world's best negotiators, always ready to make a deal. They were like the original Let's Make a Deal contestants, but with more togas and fewer game show hosts. They were often reluctant to go to war, preferring to negotiate treaties and alliances whenever possible. This approach helped them build a network of allies and secure their borders. Basically, they were the original let's talk it out champions. And they had the best negotiation skills in the ancient world. However, they were also fiercely determined to protect their interest and expand their territory when necessary. When diplomacy failed, the Romans did not hesitate to use military force to achieve their goals. Think of them as the ancient world's speak softly and carry a big stick enthusiasts, but with more swords and fewer sticks. And a lot more epic battles. Rome's rise to dominance was like trying to win a game of chess with a blindfold on. It was a journey filled with more twists and turns than a soap opera, testing the patience and creativity of the Roman people. And boy did they need a lot of coffee. It was a long and bumpy ride, marked by both epic wins and face-palm-worthy fails. The Romans had to keep reinventing their playbook to outsmart the curveballs life threw at them. Think of it as the ancient version of Survivor. One of the biggest headaches Rome faced was Carthage, the Mediterranean's version of a supervillain. Carthage wasn't just a rival, it was like the Thanos of ancient times with a fleet that could make Poseidon jealous. Seriously, they had more ships than a kid has Legos. The Punic Wars were like the ancient world's version of a trilogy blockbuster, spanning over a century and pushing Rome to its limits. These wars were not just about land, they were epic showdowns between two titans. Think Avengers Endgame, but with more togas. The First Punic War saw Rome build its first navy, which was like teaching a cat to swim. Against all odds, they beat Carthage at sea, marking the start of Rome's aquatic adventures. Imagine a bunch of landlubbers suddenly becoming pirates. The Second Punic War introduced Hannibal, the Carthaginian mastermind who brought the fight to Rome's doorstep. His tactics were so next level they made the Romans rethink their life choices. It was like playing chess against a grandmaster when you barely know the rules. Hannibal's crossing of the Alps with elephants was like a circus act gone wild. This bold move left the Romans scratching their heads and wondering if they were in a history book or a fantasy novel. Elephants in the Alps, that's some next-level trolling. The final Punic War, ending in 146 BCE, saw Carthage get the ultimate makeover, total destruction. The Romans left no stone unturned, ensuring Carthage wouldn't be making a comeback anytime soon. It was the ancient version of Extreme Makeover Home Edition, but with more fire. Carthago delenda est, Cato the Elder would declare at the end of every Senate speech, even if he was just ordering lunch. His obsession with Carthage's destruction was like a broken record that everyone had to endure. Imagine someone ending every conversation with, "We need to destroy Carthage." Annoying, right? Carthage must be destroyed. And boy, did the Romans deliver. The obliteration of Carthage was a mic-drop moment that cemented Rome's rule over the Mediterranean. It was like winning the ultimate game of Risk. Rome's victory in the Punic Wars turned it from a local hero into the Mediterranean's big boss. This newfound power let Rome spread its wings and take over vast territories. They went from zero to hero just like that. But these wars also shook up Roman society. The flood of wealth and slaves from conquered lands turned Rome into a bustling metropolis with more drama than a reality TV show. Think Keeping Up with the Romans. The elite got richer, the poor got poorer, and social tensions skyrocketed. It was like a never-ending episode of Rich Romans, Poor Romans. Spoiler alert, it didn't end well. Roman soldiers came back with new ideas and cultures, turning Rome into a melting pot of awesomeness and chaos. These interactions spiced up Roman life but also brought new headaches. It was like adding hot sauce to an already spicy dish. Rome was becoming a cosmopolitan hub, but also a hotbed of division. The empire's expansion brought both bling and complexity, setting the stage for future drama and transformations. It was like the ultimate season finale with cliffhangers galore. The Roman Republic, once the poster child for stability and governance, was now like a toga party gone wrong. Imagine a toga party where everyone forgot their togas. Political corruption was as common as sandals, and the gap between the rich and poor was wider than a chariot racetrack. It was like the rich were riding in golden chariots while the poor were left with donkey carts. Social unrest grew faster than a Roman's love for wine, as citizens demanded reforms, but the Senate was as stubborn as a mule. Picture a mule in a toga refusing to budge. This chaotic period was like a stage for influential leaders who promised to restore order, but often at the cost of the Republic's democratic principles. Talk about a plot twist. It was like watching a soap opera with togas and swords. The seeds of the empire were sown in these turbulent times, as the Republic struggled to keep its toga on straight and maintain its identity. It was like trying to keep a toga on during a windstorm. Augustus, the first emperor of Rome, or as I like to call him, the original Roman rock star, kicked off an era known as the Pax Romana, which is Latin for chill out everyone. Seriously, it was like Rome's version of a 2-century-long spa day. This period, lasting over 200 years, or as we call it today, a really long time, was basically Rome's way of saying, let's keep the drama to a minimum, folks. It was marked by unprecedented stability and prosperity. Think of it as Rome's golden age, but with more togas and fewer reality TV shows. Under Augustus's rule, Rome expanded its territories, built some epic roads, and probably invented the first ever traffic jam. They also had an arts and culture scene that would make even the Greeks jealous. Imagine Shakespeare, but in Latin and with more gladiators. The Pax Romana set the stage for Rome to become the ultimate ancient world power, and the place to be if you loved gladiator fights, aqueducts, and really long toga parties. The Romans were like the ultimate DIY enthusiasts, building roads and aqueducts that would make even Bob the Builder jealous. Seriously, these guys would have had their own HGTV show. Their monumental architecture, think of it as ancient Rome's version of flexing on Instagram. These guys were the original influencers, showing off their engineering skills. Their roads connected the empire like a giant spaghetti junction, making travel a breeze, well, if you ignore the occasional bandit. Roman culture was like a giant potluck dinner with everyone bringing their own dish. Society was a bit like high school with cliques and hierarchies, but also a place where different folks and ideas mingled like a toga party gone wild. Imagine a toga party with Julius Caesar as the DJ. The later years of the Roman Empire were like a bad reality TV show. Political drama, economic meltdowns, and surprise guest appearances by barbarians all led to a spectacular nosedive. It was like watching a train wreck in slow motion. The empire was split like a bad breakup into eastern and western halves, each side thinking they were better off without the other, each with its own set of hilarious problems. It was like a sitcom where nobody knew their lines. This division, which seemed like a genius idea at the time, was like trying to fix a leaky boat with duct tape. Ended up being the punchline to Rome's epic joke. The empire's fall was the ultimate oops moment in history. As the Western Roman Empire took a nosedive like a bad stock investment, the Eastern Roman Empire, aka Byzantium, kept the party going like it was 1999. The Byzantines held on to Roman law like it was the last slice of pizza at a party, culture, and all those fancy traditions like they were hoarding the good snacks, acting as the ultimate middleman between ancient and medieval times like a historical Amazon Prime. Rome's legacy was like glitter, impossible to get rid of, sticking around for generations and shaping Western civilization like a master sculptor with a chisel, or a really persistent artist. From the glitzy grandeur of Rome to the never-ending soap opera that was Byzantium, the saga of this epic empire continues to dazzle and entertain like the best binge-worthy series.